Hi, so there's some English guy talking about stuff, It's fine. My husband likes to watch the English guy talking about a woman thinks she's 9 out of 10. Ah, you're just really average. You know what? That's guy stuff. I agree with a lot of it. But when you start using the F word, we don't like that. We don't like that. We don't like that around here. I don't think that anybody that uses the F word, not that I haven't done it, because I have, but now, I'm feeling conviction in my spirit. I don't want to use the F word to emphasize a point. I have done it. Believe me, I have. Recorded messages. I have done that. I'm not going to do that because I feel a real sense of unease. To be a spirit-filled Christian, my goodness. Well, just filled enough, just having enough to know it's not godly. What if your pastor started F-bombing from the pulpit? I bet there are some pastors out there that are F-bombing from the pulpit. Please don't sneak little F words, F-bombs into your little worship songs. I'm hip to that. I know what's happening, Watching out for that. I love our pastor. He's a nice man, and I realize I have access to so many great modern-day theologians. Who comes to mind? Joseph Prince, number one. Derek Prince has passed away. Derek Prince was great. Who else? Les Feldick has passed away. Joyce Meyer is still with us. Thank God for that. Robert Jeffress. You didn't name Creflo Dollar. I occasionally do watch Creflo Dollar. Okay, I do. Okay, so I'm not trying to exclude anybody. I'm saying we're not against each other. But if you just listen to one pastor or one teacher all the time, you're going to find yourself a little bit starved of something that you vitally need. The Bible says that the body of Christ is comprised of many parts. And I think if one pastor knows everything, listening to the pastor saying you can't just say things and make them happen. How did God create the world? He spoke it into existence, the Word. And he starts off his sermon with that. But is a good man. Yeah. My husband and I, we left prayer requests on the steps. You better believe it, baby. It's just like, I can see somebody on the internet, and they are really feeding me something I need, but what about that person that really knows you, that loves you, that has no... Basically, I think they know that we've been going there off and on for decades. Because we've been living here for decades. And they've hung around, they've stuck around. And you may not be their best buddy. And you may think, theologically they're a little thin. They're not saying the things that I want them to say. And this and that and blah, blah, When I was living on the west side of Columbus, Ohio, I was attending a Lutheran church. And I made the mistake of becoming a little too doctrinaire. Well, the Lutherans believe in baptizing babies. And maybe I saw some televangelism or something. This was in the 90s, I guess. I don't know. Late 90s, whatever, late 90s. And I realized, I can't keep going to this Lutheran church because they're not doctrinally pure. And yet the people there were great. Everybody there was great. Pastor was great. Pastor's wife was great. And then there was this sort of like a... cross patch, it's like, what is that? Like the little stitching, needlepoint sort of thing, but it's called cross stitch or something. Somebody had made this beautiful little thing with yarn, multicolored yarn. It said, "Bloom where you're planted." That's very meaningful. Is there a Bible verse that's analogous to that? I don't know, but I'm saying there is a reason why you aren't moving on up like the Jeffersons to the east side to a deluxe apartment in the sky. Ha ha. Okay. It's the theme song from the Jeffersons. What are you talking about? What? Who? I know. Well, look it up. The theme song from the Jeffersons from the 70s. I watched it in reruns. When I came home from school, I watched every episode. I'm sure I did. I mean, it was very interesting that this pastor said years ago, before it really became in vogue. I said from the pulpit, maybe there's somebody with blue hair that'll show up. And then the next week, somebody did. Now it's like, it's just so commonplace. Now it has to be green hair. I don't know what's coming next, right? I'm thinking maybe I can dye my bangs blonde. If I just let the gray really go, I can get that blonde effect. I can at least do blonde bangs. See, that's a goal of mine. Is that weird? I'm not looking for pink hair. I'm looking for blonde. Because I'm a blonde. Yeah, yeah. Okay, stop. What? Why are you going off on this tangent? I think these people are so classy. They're like so almost unapproachably classy. But it's easy when you only have 2 kids, and I've had 9, and I've been married to the same man since 1993. So it's not like I've had kids with like 5 different men or, 57 different inseminators or whatever, Same man, same marriage, 9 kids. It's very easy to be all, oh yes, noblesse oblige, only drives new cars. I'm so special. I can only eat at the best of restaurants, and I'm such a good Christian. I can take people in. I can invite them over to my house because I've only had 2 children and 5 hamsters and a couple of sheep, and I'm such an example of Christian virtue. Are you? Well, it's very easy. My parents' generation, some by choice, didn't have a lot of kids. My parents, come on, more than 2 kids, that's crazy. But it wasn't uncommon for the founding fathers to come from a family of like 20 or 30 children. I don't know, am I exaggerating? If you were successful at having kids, you would keep having kids. And it's very sad because a lot of women died in childbirth, and there were genetic diseases in infancy. Many children died in infancy. I'm not saying go back to the Stone Age, but our culture has really, really, really seeped into the church so that the church does have affluenza. However, you have to respect somebody for just hanging in there. I was pulling into the driveway tonight after coming home from my local Kroger, which, it's very different because you go to different Krogers at different locations. And I'm like, I don't make eye contact with people in this Kroger mostly. I don't know, it's like I'm not making eye contact, just don't want no trouble, bro, What, are you crazy? No, I'm saying it's very... I don't know where these people are coming from, who they are, where they live. It's like, don't. Just keep out of people's way. Everybody's moving quickly. Don't say anything. Don't look at people. Just keep your head down. Go about your way and shop. So, that's what he did. But as I pulled into the driveway, Robert Jeffress was saying how Paul was not an attractive man. I thought, gosh, that's not... Robert Jeffress, he's in Texas somewhere. I watch him too. Of course I do. Why not? I think I mentioned him already. I was like, is that wrong for him to say that there's an apocryphal book that says Paul was not tall. He didn't have a lot of hair. He had he had features that made him unattractive. I'm like, ew, I'm a little creeped out. I don't know if he should have said that. Anywhere you go. Maybe the preacher shouldn't have said that. But what if the preacher should have said this? Now, this is what I want to say. And so I'm adding something. Just because I'm at liberty to do so. Thank God for Thomas Jefferson, even though he's a deist, right? Patrick Henry, Thomas Paine, at least one of them was Thomas Paine or Patrick Henry. They were not Christians in the traditional sense. One of them might have even been an atheist, but they had this belief, give me liberty or give me death. No, I'm not saying I agree with that, but that meant so much to people that they would have the freedom to speak, that they would be willing to die for it. Now, oh my. So why would we stop speaking if these patriots have died just so we would have the right to speak freely? Because it wasn't that way in the old UK. I was thinking to myself, this thing going on, we have laws. We are a nation of laws. The man of lawlessness is the Antichrist. He's referred to as the man of lawlessness. People that say, we don't care about laws, we want what we want. Intimidating, going brazenly against law enforcement officers is the most unchristian thing I can think of. And yet, we're getting these vague pronouncements. Well, don't be too much into politics and blah. No, it's not politics. We're talking about Jesus is the coming king. The king rules. He has rules. He tells you what to do. In the past, we didn't have good kings. We had terrible kings like King Henry VIII, for example. King George III, for another example. But these people, they just are a law unto themselves. What kind of nonsense is that? I would love to have a pastor with some kind of fire in his belly saying, this is really wrong, this is evil, yes, it's a sign of the times. Don't tell me it's politics. For people to be acting brazenly, lawlessly, unless you're a Christian, you could be in a country where it's illegal to be a Christian. That's a horse of a different color. I don't know. I think that if you don't preach against this stuff, it's just going to grow like a cancer that you're ignoring. And I'm going to say, I'm concerned about it, but can I share it? It would take me probably like 5 hours to write a perfectly crafted email to tell the pastor this. Because that's the way I am. I'm a perfectionist. And so I have such freedom when I can speak. Pastors need to be a bit more serious and a little bit less about all the bells and whistles. Because the bells and whistles, they're going away pretty darn soon. Let's be real serious. Thank you for listening.